who of you here thinks you have a soul? You think you have a soul? Fantastic, fantastic. And who believes they have a soul?
I do.
You believe you have a soul?
Yes.
And who knows that they have a soul? Okay. And those three questions are not the same questions, are they? Because what I think is a mental thing. It's my mind that thinks. Right? And what I believe is a heart thing. So, in other words, it's emotion, what I feel. Right? And what I know is an experiential thing. In other words, I've got some experience of it. I've experienced something of my soul. I've become aware that there's something more than just this me that everyone knows. Right? Isn't it? So it's like that. So all of us have consciousness at different levels. Consciousness can be a physical thing. Consciousness can be a mental thing, or consciousness can be an emotional thing. Right? And it's all expressed very differently. So we could say that we're all a trinity. We all have these three aspects of us, these three levels of being that are constantly interacting inside of us. Have you noticed that? So in other words, I might be here physically, but my mind might be elsewhere. Right? And my heart might also be elsewhere. So in other words, I might be longing for someone, but they're not in my present moment. So my heart is not necessarily in what I'm doing right now. You're getting that? My heart can be absent. My mind, my awareness can be absent. But my body has no choice, it has to be in. Okay. So the physical body is subject to more laws than the mental being. The mental being, so what would you say a mental being is? Part of it is where we see and hear and taste and smell, right, is the mind. But at the same time, we have this ability to interpret what we're seeing, what we're hearing, these words that are coming out of my mouth right now, your ability to understand these words. That's the intellect, right? And those two together make up a mental being. So we've got a physical being, a mental being, and then we have this thing in us that feels. Have you noticed that you have feelings about everything? As you move through life, as you move around, you have feelings about this, you have feelings about that. Have you noticed that? When we're very young, we live according to feeling. So, like the guys at the back there, hi girls, how are you? Do you live your life according to how it feels? If it feels good, you know it's good. It's like that, isn't it? You follow your feelings, you want to feel good, right? It's only when we become older and we gain more and more experience that we start thinking about what we're doing. So in other words, that we have a plan. That we start saying, oh, you can't do that, but you can do that. That might feel good, but it's not good for you. So that we develop this capacity, this mental capacity, to start influencing what we do in life. Have you noticed that? Mm-hmm. Right, so we all are, in fact, a trinity. I have the body that can do actions. I have the mental being that can experience the world and interpret what's being experienced, and then I have feelings about it depending on what I'm attracted to, what I'm identified with, what I'm interested in, right? So what's coming into us, what we see as the world is in fact our own world. Does that make sense? So in other words, what you're aware of in the world is really those parts of the world that you find interesting. The rest of the world you may not be aware of, right? So it's like the world is a 1,000-piece puzzle, but I only take 33 pieces for my world. And those 33 pieces that I take are those parts of life that affect me. You getting what I'm saying? So in other words, you're not interested in who won the ice hockey match in Russia last week, right? So you're not aware of it. You don't know about it, right? Or perhaps what happened in a gold mine in Kimberley 2 weeks ago might not be part of your world. You may not be aware of it. Or there's this huge thing. What's the big sporting event that's going on right now? Biggest sporting event in the world, right? The World Cup. But there's many people that don't watch soccer. You know, I have lots of friends in Pretoria that are not watching the soccer this week. Okay? Last weekend was the largest motorsport event probably of the year. Guess what that was?
Le Mans.
Le Mans, right? Yet very few people watched it, right? Because we're not interested in it. So we find ourselves surrounded by many worlds. The world of finance, the world of sport, the world of health, the world of farming, the world, many, many worlds, but we only choose specific parts of it that we're aware of, and those parts become our world. The world according to you, right? So what you describe as the world is actually your world. And at the center of that world is who? Is you. So you're the protagonist of that story. You're at the center of that world. That world you judge from the perspective of you, of me, and in this fashion I then am the main character in this thing that I call the world. So as many people as there are, that's how many worlds there are. Right? So each person carries with them their own world. Now worlds can overlap. You know, when you go into a relationship with someone, then two worlds can overlap, and their commonality starts getting bigger and bigger. Right? So what you have in common is the overlap area of the two worlds, and what you don't have in common is the parts that stand apart. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's like two circles that are intersecting, right? When we say people drift apart, what happens? The two worlds move apart. Right? And when we say we're quite close, we mean that these two worlds are coming closer and closer and integrating more and more. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So consciousness itself has this wonderful, wonderful attribute. It has this ability to integrate things. Right? So you could call it oneness. So even though I have this physical being, which is this body, and the system that controls it, that allows the heart to beat and allows the digestive system to work, isn't that wonderful? You don't have to do anything. You can go to sleep and it will breathe. You can go to sleep and it will digest the food. Isn't that fantastic? Right? You can go to sleep and the heart will keep beating. You don't have to wake up every 10 minutes and go, yeah, it's still there. It's still going, right? That's our etheric capability, right? So the etheric and the physical combine for this physical being, and it operates pretty much on its own. At the same time, the mental being and the mind also vacillate. And have you noticed that if you're thinking, you're not seeing, and when you're seeing, you're not thinking? Have you noticed that? So if I'm looking out at the trees, and I'm actually looking, then at that moment I'm not thinking. The moment I start thinking, then you'll notice I'm not seeing the tree anymore. I'm seeing whatever my intellect is reasoning about. Does that make sense? You're seeing this? So these two together stand in opposite polarity. Okay? Either one is at the forefront of consciousness in the light. Consciousness you could call light. So the beauty of consciousness is that it unites these two as one. It unites the body and the etheric as one. It unites the mind and the intellect as one. And it unites the ego and the heart as one, as the causal being. Right? So it makes it appear to us as if we're one thing, one entity. I'm one. But when you start looking at me, you go, hang on, you're not completely one, because you're here right now, but your heart is elsewhere. So how can you be one? You see that? Being one is not a given thing. It's a choice. So in other words, I can choose to be one by being fully present, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Or I can choose to be a trinity, which is separate and not one. Right? Are you following this? Is this a bit too abstract? So if I'm here but my thoughts are elsewhere, every moment that I'm thinking, I'm not here. Every moment that I'm feeling, I'm not here. Are you getting this? Because to be in the present moment, to be here, aware of everything that's happening, I need to be aware of what's in front of me, what's around me, what is happening in my immediate environment. So for me to be able to do that, I have to be total. I have to be one. Right? So when we're dealing with children, for example, from the perspective of these three beings, what this means is, this is very interesting, is that what the physical needs of the child, the mental needs of the child, and the emotional needs of the child all have to be met. Right? And a child, for example, doesn't want the same thing every time. Sometimes the child just wants a hug. In other words, some love. Sometimes the child wants food. And sometimes the child wants knowledge, understanding, or an experience. Right? So it can be very difficult when you're dealing with a child that can't talk yet to establish what is the need of the child. And am I feeding all three of these beings of the child? Or am I neglecting some or using the wrong one at the wrong time? So in other words, if the child is hungry, am I giving them knowledge? How would I do that? When does that happen? Mommy, I want to eat now. No, you can't eat now. We're eating at 5 o'clock. What has just happened? The child wanted food. Instead, I gave the child knowledge. Are you getting this? Seeing this? Okay, so in the same fashion, the child might come home and complain about things that happen at school, and all they really want is some love, some support, but instead we give them knowledge. Are you getting this? So in this manner, in this way, once you understand these three levels of being, that we're all a trinity, one can start distinguishing between when does the child want what? Am I sure right now it's knowledge? Am I sure right now it's love? Am I sure right now it is food? Because whatever nourishment we provide helps that being to grow. If you give a child physical food, their body grows. If you give them knowledge, their body of knowledge grows. Right? And if you give them love, their capacity for love grows. Right? So if we neglect one of those three, then you'll find that the balance in the child, for example, is not equal. Okay. So So in the same fashion, when we interact with others, when we're dealing with other people, we are constantly transacting. Have you noticed this? I offer you a piece of knowledge, you offer me a piece of knowledge. I share my experience, you share your experience. Isn't that what's happening when you're having a conversation with someone? What is actually happening is this exchange of energy. Right? It's like when you go to the market and you barter. You bring your oranges and the other guy has apples and you're exchanging apples for oranges. Right? So in the same fashion, emotionally, we are constantly transacting with people. Right? So in other words, love is moving between people. Love is the currency of emotion and feeling. So wherever we go in life, this transacting of emotion and of knowledge and of substance is happening. Right? So if the mother breastfeeds the child, she gives the child food, nourishment in a physical sense, and the child gives back love. That love that the mother feels when she is breastfeeding the child is the love of the child, not the mother. You're getting this? So this is the kind of interchange that's happening with our energy all the time. Now, energy is so important for us because our level of energy has a direct effect on what we may call our level of consciousness. Okay? So in other words, the higher your energy levels are, the more easier it is for you to be conscious and aware and intelligent. And the lower your energy is, the more incapable you become of being conscious in the world. Does that make sense? So in other words, like if the body is ill, then you can't go to work, right? Why? Because the body at that point is consuming all the energy, right? So we have physical energy for the body. I won't go into the detail of it, but basically at a cellular level, we have an energy called ATP, which is a phosphate, which is a chemical that our body, that our cells uses energy. At the mental level, we have prana, and at the causal level, the level of emotion, we have love, right? And all of us are transformers, right? It's wonderful. I can eat food and it can develop and transform into prana, and it can transform from prana into love. And the same can happen downwards. When you're in love, you might not find it that important to eat. Notice that? Okay. Why? Because I've got lots of love. Ready to eat. Right? If I don't have love, I may tend to overeat. Right? Because I'm trying to fill a void that's emotional with food that give comfort. Right? Comfort food. So in this fashion, we're transformers. We're constantly transforming energy from one level to the other, and at the same time, we are unconsciously exchanging energy with others all the time as a form of social transacting. Okay, is that making sense? Okay. So awakening of consciousness is quite a beautiful thing because it deals with these three levels of being. Okay. When you love something, if you do something you love, is there effort? No. Okay. Why is that? Why is it that when I do something I love, it's not a problem? It's no effort. In fact, I enjoy it. Why is that? Because my heart's in it. That love is moving down to the level of the body, and the body has plenty of energy to do it. Does that make sense? Okay. And the same thing at the mental level, right? So in other words, I can enjoy an action, and an action can become effortless if my heart's in it, as an example. Right? At the same time, so what we find in life is that our actions that we do that we're not interested in are performed from habit. We have habits. Right? So the first seal, that first seal I spoke of, the seal of consciousness, is which unites the body, the physical body, and the etheric. Now the etheric runs, as we said, the heart, the lungs, the digestive system and everything. It's also where you teach your body to do things. How to drive a car, how to walk, how to run, how to jump. Okay, you know all of that stuff, right? So I can do it, I can drive my car quite unawarely. I can drive my car without being aware that I'm driving the car at all. I can get to work and go, oh my God, how did I get here? Right. What just happened? I performed the action of driving from habit. I have a habit, I've learned how to drive this vehicle, and therefore I don't need to give it any awareness. Right? I can drive and think of other things, and my body will still drive the car. Right? So the awakening of consciousness, so that scenario I'm describing, means that the physical being at that time is asleep. It's not aware. It's not aware, it's not enjoying the action of driving, or enjoying the action of running, or enjoying the action of walking. In fact, I'm not even aware that I'm doing it. Right? So when we talk about the awakening of consciousness, we're really talking about awakening to the joy of action. When you're eating your favorite ice cream, that's joy, right? Right there. Why? Because I'm fully there. I'm not eating the ice cream and going, yeah, I'm just working on this problem here that I need to sort out, and I'm not aware of the ice cream. No, no. I'm eating the ice cream and I'm enjoying it. Have you ever eaten your ice cream without awareness and then you feel cheated afterwards? You go like, my God, I didn't even taste it. I was going to taste it. Please come in. You go, I was going to enjoy this ice cream, but I had it without awareness, so I've got to have another one. I better have another one because I don't even know I ate that ice cream. My awareness wasn't there, right? So awakening of consciousness at the level of the physical being is awakening to the joy of action. Okay? Awakening of consciousness at the level of the mental being, this is an interesting one, is the tuning into the intelligence of the present moment. What does that mean? That means that if something breaks around the house, for example, and I need to fix it, I will fix it the way I've always done it. I've got a habit, I've got a way of fixing things, and I've got knowledge about that. So I look at this door, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to do to it what I've done to it 20 times before. I know what the problem is, I'm going to fix it. Right? So I'm relying on my body of knowledge to know what to do mentally to address a situation in life. Right? But what if I don't have that experience? What if I'm in a situation where something is broken around the house, or on the car? The car's broken down at the side of the road. You've got the bonnet open. You're not a mechanic. You're staring in there. You're going, oh no, it's broken. Who's ever experienced that? That moment. You're like going and going, God, I wish I knew engines. I don't know what's wrong with this thing. Right? What's happening at that moment is your body of knowledge doesn't have the experience. You're not a mechanic to know what to do. Right? If you were a mechanic, he would look with his knowledge and go, yeah, it's not the alternator, it's not the fuel, is there spark, is there fuel, right? He'd go through a process of elimination to try and discover what's wrong with this vehicle, right? So in other words, I'm using the knowledge I've already got. Tuning into the knowledge of the present moment is something entirely different. Awakening of consciousness at the level of the mental being means that I look with intelligence at the situation and I'm just open and available. I'm in wonder. Right? When the mind goes into wonder, it can start tuning into the truth of the present moment. Now let me ask you guys, have you ever had a situation in your life where an idea about a problem just came into your head, you don't know where it came from, and it was the solution. Who's experienced this? Have you experienced this? Yeah? You guys ever experienced this? You know what the answer is, you don't know how you know. Okay. That's the intelligence of the present moment. You could call it intuition, right? You can call it luck. But this is a skill, this is an ability that we can develop for the mind to be receptive in the present moment to something other than just the intellect, which contains the body of knowledge. Are you hearing this? And this is called the breaking of the second seal. The breaking of the first seal was the breaking of habit. The breaking of the second seal is the breaking of the seal of knowledge, the attachment of awareness, of mind, to the body of knowledge. Okay. At the third level of being, the awakening of consciousness is to dispassion. Okay. So in life normally, I'm only interested in those parts of life that I have some feelings about. Right? Parts of life that you're indifferent to won't register. You won't even know about them. You're not aware of them. Right? Are you following what I'm saying? If you're indifferent about something, then that indifference means that that subject, that world, is not part of your world. Okay? So the awakening of consciousness at the level of the third being is what we call unconditional love. So when you're doing service, you let's say at a supermarket or you somewhere where you're helping other people, you're doing something for someone else rather than you or your family. You're doing some act of, we call it savor, for someone else. You don't expect to get paid for it. Then all of a sudden you find a kind of love arising in you, which is not that selfish love, that if you love me, I love you. Not that love, right? That's transacting, right? But a love of, I love you, and it's okay if you don't love me back. It's okay, I'm just doing it because I want to, right? So that's awakening of consciousness at the third level. The awakening of consciousness at the fourth level, so beyond these three beings, that consciousness that makes it appear as one is stepping beyond this identity of me, right? Stepping into what we call the present moment fully. Okay? So in other words, in the present moment, stepping into the present moment fully, I am completely here in this present moment, in a state of wonder. I'm not thinking anything. I'm not feeling anything. No one thing in my present moment is more important than any other thing. I'm just here completely relaxed in the present moment. Right? And what happens then is this sense of me, of I, mine, me, I, disappears. It just dissolves. And all of a sudden, I experience the most magnificent experience of life, which is the oneness of all. The allness of one. Right? All of a sudden, I've now stepped beyond love, even. And I've entered a world where I can perceive the oneness of everything. That everything is part of something bigger. It's not just a thing on its own. Getting this? How it's connected, how everything is connected to everything else, is that domain of consciousness awakening at the level of the soul. Okay.